Greetings, dear ones. We greet you at a very special time on your journey on planet Earth. We tell you humanity has reached a certain level. It's getting very exciting during these times. We wish to be here to nurture you, to tell you you're right on target, to help you understand your path and the many things that are still ahead. You are doing something absolutely amazing on planet Earth. What you don't remember is that you're all part of us. You're all part of each other as well. You're playing the game of pretending to be separate, pretending to be a human. And that you have gotten very good at. The art of separation has been huge on planet Earth. And to some ways, that has served you well. But now you're starting to move in a whole different direction. You're starting to live in a collective dimensionality of the fifth dimension. And that is changing everything. Amazingly enough, you've played this game so far, well in the third dimension. Let us briefly give you an overview of those dimensional realities. That is the collective dimension that all of you live in, kind of a base for the game that you are playing. In the beginning, you were all connected. You were all home. You're all part of us. And that is unity. That was the first dimension. In order to play the game of pretending to be separate, you had to move through the second dimension. The second dimension imprinted you with the imprints of duality, gave you contrast so that you could see one person to the next, so that you could see yourself as different from each other instead of the same. And it gave you the perfect imprints to land in the third dimension and play the game of a spirit pretending to be human. You've done very well with this game. What we tell you, dear ones, is that you have won the game. In truth, not long ago, you moved the whole collective into the fifth dimension. And in doing so, you passed through the fourth dimension. And again, not living there, but picking up certain imprints, certain attributes, certain things that you will use to move forward now, to evolve spirit even further than you have done before. The connections are incredible. We encourage all of you to step into that passion. That's when you become the highest use to the universe that you can be. That's when you become the highest aspect of your spirit in the dense physical bubble of biology that you inhabit. The connections are incredible, and they're growing. Now in the fifth dimension, even though you've been imprinted with the fourth dimensional attributes, most of you still don't know you've moved. It happened very quietly to some. It happened around the 12-12-12, and we tell you it was exciting for us to watch. And yet today, most of humans and the humanity experience altogether is still wrestling with this. You see more division today on your planet than ever before, especially in recent years. And that's partly because most people are still trying to use the third dimensional attributes that they have learned as successful in the fifth dimension. And it creates a huge amount of frustration because they don't work the same. And all of you are wrestling with those attributes of learning the new ways. And you think, well, something has lasted for thousands of years. This is how I've always done it and been successful. And yet you try it and it just misses. It doesn't bring you the same satisfaction and certainly not the same results. We tell you, dear ones, even physics has changed in the fifth dimension. In the third dimensional reality, you inhabited these bubbles of biology, this case of density, if you will. And it has its limitations like everything. Your eyes can only see between a very small range of perception that you call visible light. And yet the electromagnetic spectrum itself is huge in comparison to what you can perceive. Your ears can only hear certain ranges. You're aware that there are animals on your planet that you can hear far beyond what your ranges are that can see things you cannot see. We tell you in the fifth dimension, all of that is shifting. Even your dense physical body is starting to gain new attributes as you start to move toward light body. And you're going to see that many of your own senses, including the 3 that you know nothing about, are going to start to grow and become very prevalent on your planet. This takes courage, because change is not easy for humans. It is something that people wrestle against. Your whole idea of success is about status quo. And yet we tell you there's so much moving now. Hang on to the ride and enjoy every moment of it. There are so many wonderful things taking place once you ground your experience firmly in the 5th dimensional reality. And you'll find that certain things don't work the same. There's many new attributes of the 5th dimension which you're just learning about. You may have known about them before, but now they're becoming critical for many of your experiences. One of them, we'll give you an example, is judgment. It was very important for you to judge things in the 3rd dimension. You judge this is good and this is bad. This is right and this is wrong. This is up, this is down, this is fear, this is love. But those never did exist. There is no black and white, dear ones. It's all shades of gray. And yet we tell you now it's becoming more important to replace that judgment with discernment. Discernment is the art of finding that which adds to you in that moment. Now, when you find something that works for you, we ask you to hold it and open your heart and bring it in and call it yours. But don't call something else bad. Because the moment you do, it becomes a judgment, and you attach yourself to that which you have judged. And it follows you around from that point forward, becoming part of your experience. What if you just took the best from everything? That is what we're telling you the 5th dimensional attributes open to. That's what adds to your being, allows you to be the conscious creators that all of you have always been. And now you're going to start seeing. Now you have the capabilities of seeing your reflection in a totally different way. Totally different opportunity for you to see who you truly are, why you came to Earth in the first place, and where you're going. Wait until you see what's coming. We have very few words that can describe the attributes that are directly ahead. You have won the game that you were playing. You have evolved spirit in the ways that you have. And we tell you, dear ones, there are many games going on throughout the universe, throughout all that is, throughout the multiverse. But we also tell you that of all those games, you have more games going on, more types of planets that support life than you have numbers for here on planet Earth. And we tell you, dear ones, even with all that, you're leading the way. All eyes are on planet Earth during this transition. And we tell you there are many that have evolved technologically, there are many that have evolved spiritually, but no one has ever stepped consciously from one dimensional reality to the next, like you've just done. And that is a fascinating part for all of you to own. Now, yes, there is turmoil on planet Earth. Yes, there's a lot of changes going on. Yes, the pendulum is swinging rather rapidly in both directions. And we tell you that leads to human advancement. Do not judge it as good or bad. Do not judge it as right or wrong. But watch for the opportunities that all of you have to plant your light, to step into your passion, to anchor those 5th dimensional attributes that are here right now, to use time in a totally different way than you have before. You experience time in the 3rd dimension as linear. In the 4th dimensional, it's circular. In the 5th dimension, it's a spiral. And they have different attributes. And we tell you the beautiful part about all of it is it repeats itself over and over and again. So that which you master is removed from that circular timeline. That which you can step into, that which you can find harmony with, you don't have to repeat. And now that you've stepped into this 5th dimensional reality, even though there is great separation on planet Earth, there is much turmoil, Because, dear ones, when people get into fear, they step backwards in their own evolution. They step backwards in that which they have learned. They try the old ways one more time. And they fight desperately to make them work, even though they're not successful at it. And you're experiencing much of that throughout the globe right now. Do not judge it as bad. It is an indication that you have clearly moved into a fifth dimensional reality and are trying to settle the collective of the beautiful game that you call humanity. It is a wonder to see. And we tell you, all of you are moving back into light body. It's a slow process. What it means is that you can carry more of your own light, even in density. That you have more coming in and more going out. More capable of carrying the light which you had to separate to play this game of pretending to be human. And we tell you, dear ones, the excitement on this side of the veil is great. We cannot wait to get you home at some point and show you what you have accomplished already. Do not lose sight of that. And no matter where you are on the planet, no matter where you are on your own personal path, no matter where you are in all the collective, understand that you've already won the game. Now you're simply moving from one stage to the next. And we tell you the possibilities of creation for each of you, individually as well as collective, is much greater than you ever imagined. The new earth is beginning in many different ways, and it's right here, right now. Is it an earth you're going to travel with and be with for the next millennia? No, dear ones, that is not the plan. There's much going on right now, but we tell you, mastering every step of your path is what you're here to do right at this moment. Dare to transcend some of the challenges, some of the birthrights, some of the things that you've brought in from even other lifetimes that you've carried with you so that you could be here to master them now. Look at each one. Evaluate each one. And try to step forward and transcend them by looking at them with fifth dimensional attributes. You're playing a beautiful game. Oh yes, we know. Humans don't like that idea of playing the game because it means that it's just a game and it's not serious. But we tell you, dear ones, as long as you're having fun, you're on your path. And that's sometimes what happens when people get way too serious, too focused on trying to create something that's not easily happening. And that is happening much at Earth. Dare to take a step back. Dare to smell the roses. Watch the sunset. Find the beauty in the flowers that are around you. Find the beauty even in the darkness that is around you. For it won't be long, dear ones, before you will savor every moment of that time. You look back at this as an incredible experience, an incredible opportunity, and you will remember even the harshest times as beautiful, as a beautiful human experience. As you step into the fifth dimension and you start anchoring yourselves in different ways, know that much of what you have perceived before will start uncovering itself. Your own range of perception, even your eyesight, your hearing, your ability to sense and feel magnetism, which is something very few of you know about, will start to grow even more than before. Your head experiences things as electrical. Your heart experiences things as magnetic. And we tell you they're actually part of the same wave. If you measure it this way, it is electrical. If you measure it this way, it is magnetic. Humanity in the third dimension has focused clearly on what you can focus here. You even differentiate yourselves from the animals because you can reason, and you think they cannot. Oh yes, they can. But now you're working with the heart energy. And it's not that you're going to shut this off, but there's a new balance coming. And that new balance is much more attainable in the fifth dimension than it ever was in the third. But it's also going to mean that you must balance many things about yourself Not just the head and the heart, but also the masculine and the feminine. And that is happening massively. Because of this step in the fifth dimension, the feminine is beginning to rise again. It's not going to rise to take over, because feminine power is not about force, it's about harmony. And that leaves room for everything. And whether you're carrying a masculine body or a feminine body, know that that can happen for each and every one of you right now, like never before. The greatest times on planet Earth are directly ahead, dear ones. Don't miss any of it. Enjoy every aspect that you're moving through. We also tell you that when you came to Earth, you divided yourselves into 11 rays, 11 different experiences of you, each one making different choices. There are times, dear ones, when you go to sleep at night and you have these very vivid dreams, but you're married to someone else, or you have different children, or you're in a different experience. Sometimes you literally move into another dimensional reality to experience some of that as your consciousness relaxes. Enjoy that. But we also tell you you've hidden your perfection in each one of these. And over here, you're really good at something that over here you're not. But the dimensional walls between those dimensions in the fifth dimension, the collective of the fifth dimension, are starting to fade. You're starting to feel emotions from other aspects of yourself that you've never felt before. The magnetic waves are coming through those walls right now. Don't take them too seriously, but celebrate them. And know that you're in a huge connection of unity consciousness. You are putting back together that which was separated to play the game in the third dimension. And you're doing it while you're walking still in a dense physical body. Dear ones, that has never been done in any game. Never been done in any part of all that is before. This is new. And it is strictly a human experience on Earth. And for that, we celebrate you, each and every one of you, for the incredible parts that you play, for that which you've brought from home to share on Earth right now. The connections are outstanding, and each of you have a unique part of it. Play that well. Know that all of you are in this together. Oh, dear one, when you finally pull back the veil and see the game that you have been playing, you'll find that over here you call it one thing, and over here you call it another. And in truth, many times you are talking to parts of yourself. The magic mirror that is here for each of you. Now, some look through this mirror over here and they cannot see themselves, so they find a different mirror to look through. One is not right and one is not wrong. There is no single mirror that can reflect the spirit of any human. So yes, you have all been speaking to the same entity, and it is you. God is here right now in every one of you. And it's very confusing for humans to do that, because you've had to look up to the gods, to honor, to pray to put them on a pedestal. We ask you, dear ones, to start spelling God with a little g. Start bringing them down to see that you, in fact, are God in your wholeness, not just a part, but each and every one of you have the full creativity of that. It's difficult to see because when you came here to play this game on Earth, you divided yourself into 11 rays. You hid your perfection in each one of those. It's very challenging for you to see that you have a perfection in you. But that's what you're starting to see in the fifth dimension. Those walls are starting to diminish ever so slowly. Take that power. Do not use it to feed your ego, for that will not work. And the other challenging part about it is that you're not the only God. And living in harmony with those other gods is what you are learning in the fifth dimension. is only one connection. Everyone looks for the highest potential. Everyone looks for separation. Everyone looks to quantify themselves. We tell you an interesting story, dear ones, because you look for this ladder of human advancement, and you think that you must climb that ladder to reach the top in order to advance to the next level. And what we actually tell you is that when everyone takes their position on the different rungs of the ladder is when the whole ladder evolves. And that's what's happening. So it's difficult, and we ask you to move out of duality, to try and see the highest of the high, but to see the highest within each of you right now, because that is where it is. Now, is there different levels of what you would call God? Yes, of course there are. And there are different games going on throughout the universe that attach and connect with many of those different levels. To everything, there is a season. To everything, there is a harmony. And the harmony that you have here can tell you that you can find it all within yourselves. That's difficult for humans to deal with because they have an ego they must deal with. The ego tells you you are separate from each other. And the ego has you measure yourself against others. And you'll learn not to do that. You'll learn to take the highest potential in each and every moment and grab it as your own. Claim it as your power. You are conscious creators in every moment. You use something called entrainment, which you know very little about here. It is mentioned in your physics and some of your mathematics. But entrainment is taking your vibration and pushing it out into a world and creating something that matches your vibration. Each of you do it. You're not aware of it. It has been very unconscious on planet Earth. But every thought you have turns into a vibration that emits from your being and carries out into the universe in front of you, into the timeline in front of you, and arranges everything just before you open your eyes, just before you pick up the phone, just before you turn the doorknob. And a world is there that matches what you have sent out. So you are consciously creating. Now, it has been necessary because of carrying the ego in the third dimension, the way that you have, it's been necessary to hide some of that from you, which you yourselves did. You set about processes where you could not see your magnificence. Even today, when you look in the mirror, your attention goes to your flaws, not your perfection. And that is by nature in the third dimension. In the fifth dimension, you're learning otherwise. But it also takes a little while for you to ground that new energy in the fifth dimension. So look for that beauty, look for those connections, and you'll start understanding that you have literally created everything right in front of you, and it is perfect. No matter where you are on your path, no matter what mistakes you think you have made, is absolutely perfect for where you want it to be. The game is basically to evolve. You can say it is to evolve God. You can say it is to evolve spirit. You can say it is for the evolution of everything. And it is. Because that is the process of all things in the universe. To evolve to the next level, to reach a higher vibrational state than when you started the game. Now, we call it a game for the very simple reason that we see all the games that are going on throughout what you call all that is. You used to call it the universe, and now your sciences are calling it the multiverse because they're becoming aware of multidimensionality. So we don't use those words in the same way. But throughout everything that exists everywhere, there are so many games going on. And over here, you're evolving through these set of difficulties that are absolutely creating circumstances for you to learn specific things. And over here, you're learning a whole different area. You're working with technologies that are far beyond what you know on Earth. And over here, you work with emotions only. And there are so many different games that have helped all that is move to the next level. And nowhere has anyone moved from one level of collective dimensionality to the next, like you have here on Earth. Now, we also tell you there's much turmoil. There's a lot of separation going on here. There's a lot of people stepping backwards in their evolution, trying on the old ways, trying to get the third dimensional reality and the third dimensional attributes to work in the fifth dimension. And for a time, it's going to continue. But that's why you're here. Many of you have carried that energy very quietly to be here, to be part of a critical mass of change. Does it mean you must take a sign and stand on a street corner and shout your truth louder than anyone else? No, it does not, dear one. Even if you never speak it to anyone, you are carrying that vibration deep within you. And that's part of the reason that so many of you are here right now, witnessing what is taking place, even though it seems to be somewhat out of control for many of you. Know that you're in the right place at the right time, and we honor you for it. All it is. If you were to try and encapsulate everything that exists everywhere, you would use the word God. And that's what we do. But we also tell you, you are that as well. Dear ones, would it surprise you to know that you were there around planet Earth when it was cooling? You were planning the possibilities of having an incarnation there at some point. You were working with the Earth herself in her process of evolution so that she could actually form an ionosphere and create oxygen and have a place to grow even these dense physical bodies that you now inhabit. At that time, you did not carry physical bodies. You were in what you call light body today. And many of you have taken that and called that the angelic realm. The angels that don't carry physical bodies but are somehow separate from the whole, somehow have individual incarnations. That is returning to each of you, and to many of you in this lifetime. Yes, you're constantly changing and trying on different things. And please understand, when we use that word dimensionality, we use it in two different ways. The individual dimensionality, which is the 11 different expressions of dimensions. And quite often you shift between one and the other. Sometimes you will channel another part of yourself. Literally take that energy on and jump into a little bit of your perfection over here. So many times you are shifting in that multidimensional state. Now, as far as the collective of dimensionality, that is determined by the collective vibration of all humans on planet Earth in density, in all dimensions of time and space. And that dimensionality has to do with how high the vibration can maintain itself. You have been fluctuating back and forth. Sometimes you move, sometimes you shift in different ways and move between the dimensions. But for the most part, you've been in the third dimension for a very long time. And that third dimensional reality is what you call home. Have you noticed everything has shifted? Pretty much everything has changed. Even the way that your successes have worked before somehow seem to be missing the mark now. Somehow not quite working the same. You've stepped into the fifth dimensional reality. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. This has caused much challenge and panic on your planet, especially those who believe they were in charge. And there are many that believe they can show people what they should think. There are many that believe that they can control the way that the movement goes, not only in politics, but in general heart energy of planet Earth. And they're trying that very desperately right now. And we tell you, to some degree, there's a little bit of success with that. But everything is now moved into the fifth dimension. And as everybody awakens to the new attributes and the new abilities that they have, they'll start creating their own reality and not be susceptible to that energy anymore. And that is taking place now as we speak. The fourth dimension imprinted you with all new energy. You're learning how to use that energy. You're learning how to ground those new attributes. Many of you believe that if you close your eyes, you can see into other dimensions of time and space, and we tell you that is absolutely true. And yet very few of you still try it. And when you do see something out of the corner of your eye, out of the peripheral vision, you said, oh, my brain just made that up, and you convince yourself because it does not seem to fit into your third dimensional reality. You're going to be seeing things that you can't imagine. Let your imagination run wild. Let your experience be guided by spirit. Connect with your own heart of your spirit, for it knows the way home. It knows the truth deep within. And the other aspect we tell you that is very confusing is that humans have learned belief systems. We call those BS. For the very simple reason that a belief system means that if you believe in this, it means that you must carry all these other beliefs with it. Choose only that which resonates with your heart and leave the rest without judgment. Do not call it good or bad. Do not think because you believe in this that you must believe in all these other things and how and why and all the other aspects of it. Just take the highest vibration. In the fifth dimension, you can do that. Because those belief systems are getting people in a lot of difficulty right now. They're trying to live out that which they have been taught many times. Are you aware, dear ones, that most people that have a religion were born into that religion? And they fight desperately to prove that that is the only religion or the right religion or the correct one. What if they were all blended together as one? What if you started to take just the highest potentials from each aspect of that and leave the rest? Now you're into fifth dimensional reality. That takes courage. And there will be many that fight you for that. But that is also filling yourself full of light. Stepping into the light-body experience. There's always those that come to Earth to introduce a higher reality, that live basically a higher dimensional reality. Some of them you have called Ascended Masters. Many of the Ascended Masters that have come to planet Earth have been living in a fifth dimensional reality while you were in the third. And therefore, they kept opening the door. They kept bringing you up. They kept opening and introducing fifth dimensional ideas, concepts of empowerment that live in the fifth dimension. And that has literally moved you into it. So yes, there are many who live in different dimensional realities, many who have come to plant seeds even higher than where you are. But also celebrate where you are, dear ones, and ground where you are, because it is incredible and there's so much to learn here. Even your physics is going to change. Some of you will think that you're discovering new things. Much of what you call space, which has been so mysterious to you, is starting to be unveiled. You're starting to see that you're not only not alone, but literally you're like much more than you are separate. There's much diversity out there with the different games that we play. And we tell you, you're also very much alike in many ways. And that is going to start to uncover itself to you. You're going to be very busy right where you are. So enjoy the other dimensional realities that you experience. And for those of you who've stepped into higher realms, sometimes it's very lonely there. Honor them. Know that they hold the door open. They plant the seeds for what is to come. But don't attach yourself by thinking one is better than the other. Know that you're perfect right where you are right now. But you knew that when you took off your wings and came here to play. You knew that when you stood in line to take your place. A very interesting thing happened recently. We tell you, dear ones, that the planet had the opportunity to move, to make these big shifts that it's making right now. And at home, when you are not separate from each other, there was a long line that formed, basically, to help bring you into this planet. Many that stood in line to take an incarnation here, to bring something from home, to be a part of it, because many of you have been here time and time again, investing in planet Earth and all of what you call humanity, this beautiful game that you're playing. But an interesting thing happened in that line. Since you are not separate from each other, you feel everything from every other one. You're in unity, consciousness, in harmony. And the person at the beginning of the line turned around and looked at the person right behind them. And they said, you know, you have more to offer here than I do. You have more that you can bring in. Why don't you step forward and I'll step back one? Because you're not burdened with the egos there. And so it happened that a huge reshuffling of the line took place. And the highest potential of each one moved to the front. And here you are. You are the highest potentials, or you would not be here right now. Do not lose sight of that. You brought something very important from home. Many of you have felt like you could not be heard here, that you were living a different world. People didn't understand you, that you didn't fit into your family, that you were so empathic that you had to hide. I tell you, you brought those gifts for a reason. All of you will have the opportunities to use them very soon. Step forward. Know that you'll be tapped on the shoulder. And when you do, you feel that channel on your shoulder, waiting to be heard. Give it voice. And play the game of pretending to be a human. You're having different experiences of the same spirit, the same unique core personality. You've chosen different attributes. Generally, you are the same sex. Not always, because sometimes there are things to be learned by being different. But you all incarnate at exactly the same moment. You're born into this bubbles of biology at the same moment. And you all must die at the same moment. You all must leave at exactly the same time. That is part of the reason that sometimes it is difficult for a human to leave and walk out of the body. You must be aligned multidimensionally as well, so that all can have the same experience. So there are at least 11. And we give you that illustration because it's easy for you to understand. In truth, there's infinite expressions of that, multiples of 12. But it's difficult for humans to even grasp the concept of infinity. So we give you the illusion of 11. Different expressions of the same spirit. Different reflections of your soul. You live in circular time, meaning simply that you have the illusion of linear time in the third dimension. That is where you have past, present, and future. Two of those are only memories. The past is only a memory, and the future is only potential. The only one that you truly have is this now moment, right now. Now, in the fourth dimension, time is circular. Because what happens is you have opportunities to repeat things over and over again. Have you known people who have made similar mistakes in their lives in slightly different ways over and over again until they master it? That is true. And that happens many times in multiples of 7. Where you repeat yourself over and over and over again. And that gives you many times the case of deja vu, of thinking you have been here before and remembering it feels so incredibly familiar. Now in the fifth dimension, time is a combination of both of those. It is a spiral, moving forward, carrying the linear aspects and also carrying the circular aspects. But the same is true with the circle, because everything comes around again. Everything has the opportunity of perfection, of mastery. Once you master it, it moves out of your experience altogether You no longer need that resistance in that way to learn anything. And it moves forward, and that's what you're starting to do a huge amount of right now. Besides that, we also tell you that you're at a very critical time on planet Earth. This is a huge moment for everything. And we told you all eyes are upon planet Earth. Let us also tell you that many of you have traveled backwards in time to be here right now. To plant something, sometimes as little as 5 words. To watch them ripple forward in time to start changing things, to have a different outcome, to start working with things in a different way. And yes, your memories had to be erased in order to play the game, and yet everything is somewhat familiar, and you have this sense that no matter where you are, everything's going to be all right. That we welcome you to. As you move forward, you will understand more about time travel. You will understand more about multidimensionality and being able to open that up and travel between the dimensions as well as time. You'll see that it's all connected as one. For now, we will simply tell you the main secret. It is done at a right angle, a 90-degree turn. What we have termed as the orthogonal matrix. You'll be learning much more about that as you move forward, as you anchor the 5th dimension in all of your reality. And that creates the sense of deja vu and also a deep inner peace. Enjoy it. First is unity. The 1st dimension is unity. Everything is connected. There is no sense of time. You can have everything in the now moment. What you call past, present, and future is all here as a big circle. It can be accessed at different points at any time. So here, especially, time travel is not only possible, it is the norm. Now, we do not call it time travel, obviously, because only by going through the 2nd dimension and gaining those attributes of contrast, polarity, duality, do you lay out time as past, present, and future. You experience time at 1 second moment at a time. We experience it now all at once. That's part of the reason it's been so challenging for humans to hear our words. You understand how many channelers you have on the planet at this moment. It's growing day by day. Not because there's more voices to be heard, but because now you can start to hear the message. You can hear things now and understand things you could not understand only a short time ago. You have evolved into a whole new level. You're starting to grasp universal time. Let us give you another slight example that might help you to understand. You're moving from unity consciousness where everything is one in that moment. You are connected to everything, every blade of grass, every rock, every tree, every heart. There's no war here. You're connected. You've had to play this game of pretending to be separate, so you move through these dimensional realities. As you move further, even in the 5th dimension and beyond, you start gaining unity consciousness again. You start moving back toward that instead of further away. As such, you don't even call it time travel. It becomes a natural process of playing the game in a different way. Very difficult to put into words that humans can understand because you perceive things in a certain aspect. We can tell you that you have reached a critical mass with that number. It is only slightly over 1 million souls on the planet right now that have done that. So it is a fairly small number of the 7+ billion souls that are here right now. But of that million, you are of great joy. You have done this before. There's a select group of spirits which have traveled throughout the universe to be in certain places at certain times to make a critical mass difference. We call them the family of E. And you are here in numbers of roughly 1 million souls right now. Enough to make a difference. This is the movement that you've made between the third and the fifth dimension. If it's possible for you to move from one to the other, and keep in mind, this has never been done anywhere before. This is new. Now, if you move a game from the third dimension into the fifth dimension, we tell you there is great opportunity for everything to come completely apart. For people to move into such fear over that. You might think it's wonderful to step into these new attributes, but in truth, it changes the base game that you are playing on and causes great fear. If everyone falls into fear, you literally can come apart at the seams. And instead of winning the game, you basically fall into oblivion. And we tell you, many of you have landed here right now to help ground this energy, to help find your truth. Let people know it's all right to hold the door open for those who are even afraid and experience that fear. Dear ones, there are the highest potentials for beings to ground this light this time around in a different way. And although we tell you that different outcomes happen in different dimensional realities, different choices happen in that way as well. But you have the opportunity to bring this game to a huge conclusion, to a place that has never been reached before anywhere. And that is new. That is why so many of you have incarnated in this time frame. Many of you have traveled backwards in time, even to have a full life since birth, to be here at this moment. The change is right in front of you. You're seeing it in front of you. You're seeing it play out in many different ways, and there's much to go. There's events directly ahead that will shift this earth rather quickly. Just the weight of your being and your vibration being here has already shifted it. So it's playing out in that circle, but the spiral moves forward. And that is beautiful, because you're able to literally master many of those attributes and those challenges that you've seen before. You know what not to do, basically. That's magical. You know what's right in your heart and what's wrong in your heart, and that's where you make your choices. That's where you make your discernment instead of judgments. And that'll make the difference. Please, we ask you not to judge them. Do not think that you are higher or lower than them. That puts you back into a third dimensional reality. But simply make that space. Also, do not judge them for not taking a path that you would take, because it is important to honor and maintain the free choice in your game. It is what based everything from this point forward. But we do ask you to be there, your highest potential, to go through your own experiences and then hold the door open for those that follow, that wish to follow that path in some way, and empower each other. That's the most important part. The earth is beginning to go through a cycle. To everything there is a season. You live in finiteness. Everything has a beginning, everything has an end. Your cycle on planet Earth is coming to an end. And as such, you're evolving at an incredible pace. You're literally moving. And you're not the only ones that have done this. This has even been done before on planet Earth. We can point to several races that seemingly disappeared for no reason. The Anasazi, the Aztecs in some ways, the Lemurians. We tell you Lemuria did sink, the landmass did sink, but the Lemurians were not on it. They ascended before that happened. Many beings learned to ascend in their process, to step into light body and change dimensions as a group of beings. You're learning to do that with all of planet Earth. Very magical. The possibilities are endless. Do not think this is a sad time. Do not mourn the earth. She's not dying. It's simply that she will not be able to support life in the way that you currently know it. There are many things that are taking place with that as she comes to a new cycle within herself. tell you, spirits never die. They only change form. And that magic can happen consciously. Oh, it sounds incredibly simple, but what if you were to love them unconditionally, without them thinking the same way that you are? What if you were to move back into unity consciousness? What if you could feel every other being on planet Earth, every other heart? I tell you, dear ones, if only a small percentage of you could do that, war could not exist on this planet. You would all understand you were bombing yourselves. It would not happen. Set the tone for that within each of you. And instead of looking at something and saying it is right or wrong, this is good or bad, I'm on this side or that side, start looking at the ways that you are alike instead of the ways you are separate. Start moving back into that unity understanding and living through that heart connected to each other being. That sets the stage for the grounding of the fifth dimension and for everyone to move into the light body. That's why you're also seeing a huge rise in the feminine power and the feminine energy on planet Earth, because the feminine uses harmony, not force. And that is starting to return in a very big way. Watch what happens even in your politics over the next 2 years. You'll see a reckoning of energies that will start to change things. You'll also see that there are very few people behind much of this energy that have been able to send out waves of ripples of fear, of me first movement. And that will start to change as well. That happens one heart at a time. So yes, each one must take care of themselves. The keeper traveled for many years on airplanes. We love to give the illustration because it makes sense. If the airplane ever has a problem, they tell you these oxygen masks will fall. And if you're traveling with a small child or anyone else who needs assistance, please put on your oxygen mask first. It does not mean you cannot help others. It means you must take care of yourself first. And that is not selfish. That is self first. That's a huge difference. We have opened the door to potentials. That's all we ever asked for. Take it from here. Follow your path. Know that you are right on target. And we thank you for being who you are and stepping into your power. And with that, we leave you for the moment, knowing that we really never leave. We're always here, right over your shoulder. It is with the greatest of honor we greet you in these ways and ask you to treat each other with respect, nurture one another, and play well together. Spavo.